And finally, we're on to reflecting about the y-axis. And so if we can remember for ourselves, the y-axis is the vertical axis. And when you reflect about the y-axis, if you're on one side of it, like the left, you would reflect to the right. And if you're on the right, you would reflect to the left. And if you're on the y-axis, you stay where you're at because you're the mirror in a sense. So how can you tell function-wise if you're supposed to be reflected about the y-axis? It does have the same idea. Reflections always have a negative sign happening. Or if it's already negative, negative times negative turns the function back into positive in a sense. So you'd be able to tell by inspecting the equation that if you have a negative being multiplied to your x values, that will change the signs of your x's. Hence the reason why you're flipping left and right as opposed to up and down. So that's what they're trying to tell us. And so again, I prefer to do these visually, but kind of keep in mind as you're writing equations, if you want to show that you're reflecting about the y-axis, that is how you do it. You are putting a negative somewhere near the x, or you're multiplying all those x values by -1. And if we want to do this, we'll take each graph or each function. I should say each point. And I have -4, -1. If I want to reflect it about the y-axis, I have to say, well, it's 4 units away from the y-axis. So I need to make it 4 units away on the other side. So that's the reflection. The next point over, I want to reflect it about the y-axis. It's only 1 unit away from the y-axis. So when I reflect it, it will be on the other side. Now in the next point, if you see, it's on the right side of the y-axis. I notice that it's 2 units away. If I need to reflect it about the y-axis, it's going to be 2 units away this way. To the left, I should say. And I'm 4 units to the right of the y-axis. So if I reflect it, I should be 4 units to the left of the y-axis. So now what you want to do is you're connecting your points in terms of your line segments. And now you have a reflection about the y-axis. And you know you've done it right if you can fold along the line, the y-axis, x equals 0, and you get a mirror image. So sometimes this is kind of why I like to do this on the same graph first, and then I'll transfer it over to my final draft where we have our g of x. So we can do that really quick if we'd like to. The new point should be -4, +1, -2, +3, 1, -2, and 4, -1. And so if we were to draw the final connection, we now have our reflection about the y-axis. So if you're happy with this, you're good to go for these types of problems. But just so that you can see the coordinate technique, the key is, remember, if you're reflecting about the y-axis, we want to remember that you're moving left and right. And if you're reflecting left and right, your x values will change. And in fact, they're just the opposites. So if we were going to use the coordinate method, we have x and f of x. The original function, if I can write that in, all the points, we had -4, -1. You probably have these memorized by now because we've been using the same function all the way through. -1, -2. I should have 2, 3. And 4, 1. And if I'm going to change the x values, what I need to kind of remember, we go from there. We will start with, whenever I have to change the x values, I will make new coordinates just in case. I don't want to add on and confuse myself. But if I change all the x values, -4 will become +4. -1 will become +1. +2 will become -2. +4 will become -4. And then y values stay the same. And I'll say y values just so I remember. So all I'm doing is repeating -1, -2, 3, and 1. So if we do this, you could kind of see, let's kind of say, where is 4, -1? That's this point, 4, -1. Where's 1, -2? That's over here. Where's -2, 3? That is right here. And where's -4, 1? That is right here. So you have another way to show how you're reflecting about the y-axis. So hope this helps. I know sometimes when it's abstract, we have to do a little bit more practice to get there, and hopefully these examples have helped. I will see you next time.